God, I love this episode. This is
Yeah.
this is the episode. This is the big
Mhm.
episode. This we learned so much in this episode. This is what makes us fall in love with Zuko. I feel like this
Mhm.
is finally an episode where we're like, oh my God. Like, like and I think we forget that. Like, while this is a very Aang centered episode where we learn
Mhm.
everything about Aang, we also learn about Zuko and why he's so important and what happens with him and we have sympathy for him. Um,
Yeah.
and we've been
It's a
questioning, like, while this whole series, we've been questioning, like, why have I been feeling sympathetic for this villain? He's a bad
mhm.
guy. But,
You really get the answers here. And it's also, I think
yes.
it's so fitting that we get so much about what I would argue are the two like primary like characters of the show. Like
Yes.
it's really it's easy to think of like Aang obviously is the main protagonist, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and then it's easy to think
Zuko
of
is more
like
of like a deuteragonist. Yeah, that's the word. Like a
that yeah. Uh-huh.
second
um
protagonist.
but that makes sense, yeah. And it's easy to like point to the other gang members as like being as them being the other main characters, but it really is like narratively and structurally like it's Zuko and Aang as the two
Yeah.
big ones. Like there's a reason that we're constantly cutting back and forth between Aang and Zuko and like following
Mm-hmm.
them. And so yeah, we get a lot of those answers here. Um so the episode starts off, which I literally called it in my notes, just the trauma dream. Like
The trauma
he
dream.
like that's what's happening. Like he's got there's the music box playing in the background, and he's flying on
Mm-hmm.
Appa, and
It's
Sokka's
so
flying
freaky though.
along.
It is like eerie.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
very like
like,
off-putting thing. I
oh,
love
I was so
Katara
off put by
flying on
this.
a giant Momo.
Yes,
Like that is incredible. I love that visual.
that's
But
so
then
dream.
yeah, oh,
It like so happens
it
in
is.
dreams. Yeah.
And then we get the dark storm cloud ahead, and the evil music hits, and we get the voiceovers of like everyone saying like, "Why did you disappear?" and stuff like this, and
And
Aang
like,
being
we need you, Aang.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like they need him, and him being like, "I didn't mean to," and feeling guilty in the dream, and he's try. I love the visual whenever Gyatso appears in front of him, and he tries to touch Gyatso, and he just like
He
turns
just
into
turns to
dust.
dust.
Oh,
Yeah. That's
terrible.
wow.
Try
Like that whole
again.
dream sequence, I'm like, wow, everything in that has symbolism. Everything in that means something.
Mhm,
Everything in that is the embodiment
and
of his
again,
fears.
trauma dream. That's just what
Trauma
this
dream.
episode is. Just a trauma. Like, come on. So we
Which
get
is
that,
it
and that,
is like if anybody's have had stress dreams, like that's
mhm,
exactly like how
yeah,
I describe them. Like, this is what they are and what they feel like. I like, or like the actor's nightmare. I know a lot of actors have that nightmare where they're on the stage, they forget their lines, then they look down, they're naked. Like
yeah. It's just all
it's
of the
so
worst things.
realistic. Yeah.
They do a great job of depicting that and depicting that mood, and it
Hmm.
also really like sets the obviously the tone and the stage for the entire episode.
Hmm.
And so we get also there's a super quick flash of Firelord Ozai with like a lightning strike.
Yes.
It's like
Right before he wakes up.
it's
Ah,
the shortest like insert. It's got to be like 2 frames, if that. Like it may be just
not
one,
even
but like
like one. Yeah.
it's so fast, but it's such a
It's like
great just visual motif and just reminding the audience and also Aang that like, oh, this is the problem, the bad guy, like the main thing, which is great. Um,
it's like so freaky, that flash. I love that they do that. It's like his silhouette, Ozai's
mhm.
silhouette with fire and like a lightning bolt across it.
Yeah, it's just such great visual language and motifs, and just I love that. And we'll talk about it as we get into the episode, like how they showcase Ozai throughout this episode, and
They
how
kind of keep him hidden.
yeah, like I love how in restraint they are when it comes to him.
Yes.
But so we
Because that
get
is like that is a horror movie tactic a lot with
mhm,
like the monster or the main villain to not don't show your monster. Don't
yeah,
reveal it. Like it's scarier when you don't know
to
what you're
imagine,
facing. It's
yeah.
scarier to imagine. And I do love that they
So
use that.
they use it so
Anyway.
well too.
Yeah.
uh, Aang wakes up startled, and Katara asks him if he's okay because he's had a lot of nightmares lately. And he's like, "No, it's fine." And we get the gang preparing to leave in the next day. I love that you also pointed this out in your notes, but because I
Yes.
made a note of the animation of Katara walking up Appa's tail to get on. It's so smooth. Like it's such
Like
a
it's so smooth. What is who
you,
decided that?
a great decision on whoever. Like mad props to whoever animated that thing because I literally
And
watched it and
if
I
you
was
don't
like,
remember this in the episode, listeners, Katara, like to mount on top of Appa, she walks up his tail and his tail moves up
Like he's
to
raising it
walk up.
to
He's
get
raising it
her
as she
to
walks up,
level. It's
like
so
an
great.
escalator. It's
It's
so
such a
great.
it's so smooth, and it's just such a subtle
Yes.
thing, and like I'm glad that we both were like, oh, that's awesome, because
Yes, we're like, "Wait, what?
it's
That was random. What a
it's so
flex."
good though. Like it's just it goes so hard, honestly. Like
Like, I can't
so we
imagine
get
how hard
that.
that was to animate that, but yeah.
Yeah, that I'm glad that's not my job.
Yeah.
So once again, they're out of food, so they need more food.
Mhm.
Sokka says that he had a dream that food ate people, which is just funny. Like,
So
of course, that
Sokka.
was what Sokka dreamed about.
Yeah.
And I love the visual that they use to do the transition of them seeing the like group of birds in the sky above them,
Yes.
and then when we cut, we see those same birds flying over Zuko's ship. And
And what
I
a neat way
also
to tell you that they're, like, close too.
yeah, like it works on multiple levels because it's telling you that they're close, but then it also shows that they're flying away from the storm because that's what birds do. And that's part of why Iroh is like, he's like, I smell a big storm, but Iroh also notices the birds and it's
The
like,
birds.
no, like we should go the other way. Like,
I didn't even think about the birds that
th-
way. You're so right.
like the animals are smarter about this. There's a storm coming and everyone's like, no, it's
Mhm.
clear out here. It's like, "Ah, you idiots do not know anything about weather. Like,
And I think was
come
the
on.
sky red when they woke up? Or am I
I don't think
because
so.
there
Because I
is,
know,
like, a sailor's phrase that's like, "Red skies at night, sailors delight. Red skies in the morn, sailors be warned." And
oh,
that
yeah, that
means,
makes
like, if
sense.
there's red skies in the morning, that means most likely there
Yeah.
will be a storm.
And then also like whenever they're the gang, whenever they're at the market and the pier and the fisherman that Sokka ends up going with, like he's arguing about
Mhm.
it being like a super clear day and there's like no wind. And I'm like, no wind is a sign that there's gonna be some bad stuff. Like, because it's
Yes.
like lit the calm before the
The calm
storm,
before the storm.
obviously, like is all
Mhm.
of that. Um so yeah, but backing up a little bit, we cut to Zuko and Iroh on the ship, and Iroh's saying that they should change direction, and Zuko being like, no, and saying the safety of the crew doesn't matter, as there's a crew member behind him, and he's like, all right, man, like,
He's like
sure, like,
it's
thanks,
so funny.
dude,
But he just leans into it. He's like, "No one life is greater
more
than the
important
or
than
more
getting the
important."
Avatar.
Which is I find that interesting because that is like I know the Fire Nation takes a lot of inspiration from Japanese culture, but that
Hmm.
is such like a like culture-wise that is I think a big thing in Japan and where it is the collective over
It's
the
the whole, it's not the
individual.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah.
It, that's a very like reinforced thing. And also we get early on in the episode Iroh trying to excuse Zuko's bad behavior, which will come back and he continues to like do that and
Mhm.
elaborate more on that. Um, so we get back to the gang at the market and them trying to get
Mhm.
food. I love that Katara is like talking about the watermelon and is being picky about it and is like, oh, I
It's
don't know
so
about
funny.
this.
She's like,
And it's
"I don't
like,
know, it's kinda" and the
I'm on her
lady just
side,
tries to
honestly. I feel like it's probably
Yeah.
not a good watermelon. Like there's and she's trying to sell it pretty hard. Um,
Yeah.
which
And
is
I don't know
good.
much about watermelons. Those of you listening, we're always looking for some experts. You're a watermelon
Watermelon
expert.
experts tuning in.
Casually a watermelon expert who's tuned into this podcast. Let us know. Hey, Aspect listener. Enjoying the show?
Then be sure to subscribe here on The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out more episodes and clips on our playlist here.
Thanks so much for watching, and
Lamio Hotman.